Easy. Well, well. Hello, everybody. I'm looking at our wonderful monitor here, and I am seeing, rather sadly, a little login screen. This was caused by Linden Labs forcing our wonderful camera woman, Pet Love Pet Shop, to download a brand new viewer. And as you can see, actually, we're resting rather quickly. And the interface has gone already. So sorry about that technical glitch, but here we are. And no doubt our bodies will come in shortly too. They're the usual grey statues at the moment. Anyway, welcome to the Metaverse Week in Review, where, believe it or not, it's already the 1st of December. So we're well into the countdown for towards the end of the year, amongst all the other festivities that take place during the course of that self-same countdown. Yuletide, the Christmas thing, the New Year's Day, the New Year's Eve, and, all that stuff. And, of course, everything in Second Life, and probably every other virtual world, is now covered in snow. Nothing like being a wee bit ahead of the sort of rhythm, so to speak. We haven't had it in real life here yet, but no doubt it will show up at some course, especially if our horrendous winter weather forecast is anything to go by. Anyhow, I'm Mal Burns, and regular viewers of this show will know that I usually start this show with a sort of rundown of general sort of metaverse news before my colleague Tara takes over with the sort of more techie and some specific Second Life news. Now we're going to turn that sorry, not our heads, but that procedure slightly on its head a bit this week. Because I've just realised my lips aren't flapping, but hopefully they are for the camera. Don't worry about it, he says. Largely because I'm going to bring our guests in from the start here as we discuss some of the news. And one thing we will be having is we'll be simulcasting the premiere of the new season of Black Mirror, wonderful machinima. We'll be doing that at exactly 2:00 SLT time, so that we're all broadcasting it at the same point in time. And therefore, we'll have to be off air by that time. And Saffia, who's one of our guests today, will also have to leave early for that and whatever. So I'm going to just quickly introduce all of us here on the stage. First, of course, we have my colleague Tara. Hi, Tara.
I guess I better unmute myself if I'm going to say hello. Hello, everyone. I'm here.
Yeah, might be a good idea. Yeah, you were all prepping up for the highlights of the week, and I jumped in on you. We're also joined once again by Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia.
Hello. Good to be back.
Great. Now, I know you've got exciting news for us. Good to have you back. I guess finally all the big countdown to what's coming later is out the way, and you've had a teeny bit of a breather, even if it is only a teeny
bit of a breather, yes. Until the next bit of madness starts.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll be talking about that madness later. Also, I hope to talk to you a bit because I noticed you blogged it too, a little thing about adopting lions. That's going to be fun. And also joined by somebody who's quite a regular here. It's been quite a few weeks since he's been here, but welcome back to Maria Korolov. Hi, Maria.
Oh, hi, Maria.
Right, now we've been doing a bit of sound checking before we came on air, and we're just slightly worried there's a bit of a cut on on Maria's mic, but we're just going to have to hopefully see how it goes. Amongst other things, Maria's blog, Hypergrid Business, published earlier the results of a survey on sort of, I guess, the state of OpenSim, really. So we're going to have Maria tell us a little bit more about that. I have to ask myself where to start. So I'm actually going to look at some of the links I've got open just to sort of get us going. A link at ispr.info during the week has an article called Using VR, virtual reality, of course, brackets and presence. Good point they got there, to reduce implicit racial bias. And it's, I think they got yes, it was a report that came via BBC Click in the UK on 27th of November, pointing out that racism is an issue that still pervades many societies. but using virtual reality as a form of communication seems to eradicate this. Because obviously, well, I say obviously, I presume the experiment involved using avatars. And of course, depending on how you represent yourself as an avatar, you may not be sending the same signals that prejudice people in real life. So I thought that was a rather interesting piece on that. And also got a couple of days ago by Jamie Madigan. There's a blog called The Psychology of Video Games, and it's www.psychologyofgames.com. And this is looking at the psychology of video game avatars. Yes, another fairly massive piece to read there. Right. Okay, my next link, for some very strange reason, has coughed up the wrong location. GamePolitics.com, earlier in the week, again, about 3 days ago, I think it was Thursday, have announced that the Victoria and Albert Museum here in London, which is where the real world me is based, in conjunction with Abertay University, which I believe is in Scotland, yes it is, Dundee, Scotland, are teaming up to build an online video game museum. Now, we are obviously principally concerned with what we call virtual worlds. Sometimes there are games inside them, but they're not games per se. But we have to acknowledge that we share a lot of background technology. The sort of technology that allowed multiplayer online games to come online is very similar to the technology that allows worlds like Second Life and Open Simulators to exist. So we tend to look back at video games, online video games, that is, as sort of precursors in some ways to the virtual worlds we also have now as well. So that was a very interesting article, and that came courtesy of GamePolitics.com. Virtual Strategy magazine. Now, this was published on Wednesday. It's virtual-strategy.com. And the article is called Second Life Celebrity Joy Price Brings the Virtual World into the Real World with the launch of a luxury brand on Black Friday, which, of course, as you Americans out there know, was actually on Friday. Now, you also probably saw a clip. If you've been watching the channel before this show went live, you actually saw a clip right at the top of the hour featuring this. Very interesting indeed. Basically, it's she's launched in the real world a jewelry collection called Angels and Astronauts, and it'd be available, or is, I guess, now available since Friday at joeprice.com. But the significant part of this is, of course, that all this came out of her retail ventures in Second Life. She is the owner of Virtual New York in Second Life, and a number of sort of retail outlets in Second Life too. So interesting. We talk about sort of real world fashion coming into Second Life, but also the way Second Life and other virtuals too, private simulators even, are used for actually prototyping fashion designs these days. So that, if it all works virtually, then they start making it in real life. Kind of thing. So there's a lot of crossover with the fashion industry, and we see it in a lot of lifestyle blogs, which I don't normally cover to any great extent. But there's certainly a sort of crossover both ways. The fashion industry using virtual environments to help create their product, and people creating product in places like Second Life that are then influencing real world design. So it's very, very good example of the way virtual worlds and real life are crossing over to an extent. And we also see, of course, on the web, these wonderful retailers who now provide virtual dressing rooms. So I don't know, you can go into a fictional shop, say, selling ladies' fashions, and you can, you can pull up an avatar, and you can try out the the real world fashions. Sorry, I'm slurring my words here, and try them out for size, so to speak. And then, of course, you don't actually buy them until your avatar is happy in them, and you think, yeah, that's going to suit me just fine. And of course, some of these systems even use your real life photograph as a head just to ram the message home. Anyway, that piece was to virtualstrategy.com. Metaverse Traveler, another wonderful site that seems to have lost its post. And the next thing I think, which is rather nice, is Red Shoes. The blog I'm reading is Living in a Modern World, in our players blog. But Red Shoes, bringing the spirit and intent of Zapatos Rojos to Second Life. I'm actually going to bring Saffia into the conversation here, because she too also at Prim Perfect blogged about this a short while ago. And oh, hang on, I'm getting me knickers in a twist here, to put it politely. This is not the one I was thinking of, is it? I think I'm thinking of the other one with the lion. Okay, Saffia, I want to bring you in. I think I've pulled up the wrong blog here, but we have a fundraising event in World that I know you mentioned in Prim Perfect recently, and basically the idea is to adopt lions, isn't it?
No.
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 Oh, I've got it completely wrong. Okay, forgive me, folks. I'm going to let Saffia explain this one.
The one that I posted about is adopting elephants.
Oh, yes. Sorry. You are quite right. I'm just reading so much into the background here. Yeah, it's not lions, it's elephants. I finally got the right blog up. It was Cara's Corner that actually posted on this, and there's a lovely photograph of a gorgeous elephant here. So do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. Yes, it's Eliza Weirwright, who's is an old friend of mine. And she watched a documentary about elephants and the treatment of elephants in Thailand, and about one woman and her family's struggle to help them, and that they've developed a foundation which are caring for elephants that have been mistreated. And it's called Save the Elephant Foundation, and they're doing fantastic work with elephants who've had appalling experiences. And these gentle giants are really kind of empathetic animals there, and what they've been through is just awful. And anyway, Eliza has worked out a way of sponsoring these elephants with the aid of the foundation. So she's raising money by selling really cute elephant-shaped Christmas trees in Second Life. And I think, hang on, let me just see if I can find it. But anyway, I went over there and took pictures, and Patron is really the most beautiful store. It's utterly gorgeous. And it sells sort of art, because Eliza is not just a designer, she's an artist, and she does a lot of really beautiful art things as well. And so she's decorated her sim. I mean, her sim is a great one to go for Christmas trees and Christmas decorations anyway. And this year she has decorated her sim beautifully as usual, but there are extra elephants. Because that's what the campaign is all about. It's all about supporting elephants. And the money that is raised from selling these special elephant Christmas trees will go in its entirety to the Save the Elephant Foundation. She's got a long story about how she came across this, and there's links to videos that are on YouTube about this, and a supporting video from Jane Goodall, you know, the woman who did all the chimp things. And talking about the work that's been done with the elephants. So it's a really huge project. It's fantastic. Eliza has so far raised the money. She's sponsoring one elephant completely herself, but already, and I mean, it's only the 1st of December and she's only just put these Christmas trees out. She's raised enough money to support 3 elephants, which is fantastic.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the trees are really cute. Can I res here?
Yes.
Yes, indeed you can.
Okay, here is the box. So I'm going to open the box. Pet, I'm just putting it down on the ground in front.
Open the box, open the box. This sounds like a very old TV show.
And it tells, yes, and it tells you all about this inside the box as well. And you can also give them as a gift. So you can be giving them to all your friends as well. And that is just such a typically Eliza. That is just such a typically Eliza Christmas box with little stars flashing and everything. Okay. Here is the elephant Christmas tree emerging. Right. And I will turn it round, and I probably have to move it, otherwise Pet is going to complain that no one can see anything at all.
I'm watching on the monitors here. I'm watching on the monitors here, and it does seem to be coming in now a little bit faster than things were earlier, which is great news. It is rather wonderful, isn't it? Yes.
Isn't it just absolutely beautiful?
Right.
I can't wait to see it.
Yes, I was just going to say, I think for the benefit of our viewers at home, so to speak, it's going to take a minute, but it looks like
I'm going to move it to one side so Pet can get it shortly.
Right. I have it now. I see it now. It looks great.
It's coming in now, so that's great.
I'm going to slowly move it to the left, okay, Pet? It's moving. It's moving. Elephant moving.
It's fine.
It's going to go back a bit. There it goes.
Do whatever you want.
There for a bit.
It's a walking, talking elephant too. Well,
isn't that wonderful?
It is. It's and
it's
lovely.
Only 500 lindens. It's fully transferable, so you can give them to all your friends, and everyone is going 100% to look after elephants.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah. So.
I think, given what it's going to, I think that is a bargain at the price. I mean, 500 lindens, that's a couple of dollars. I think in American money, it's nothing really. Isn't that beautiful?
I'm going to buy 100 of them.
And it will last you the whole season.
Absolutely. And it is guaranteed. And I checked this with Eliza. It is guaranteed not to leave pine needles all over your carpets.
Or other things that elephants might leave.
Other things that elephants
I think that's an even bigger bonus, isn't it? You know, you don't have to clean up after it in both senses of the.
Well, of course. Now, if it did leave elephant stuff behind, you would have your very own source of virtual Zoodoo.
Yeah. But it's a lovely thing, and
it really is. It's beautiful.
And it's for such a good cause. So, yeah. Actually, Eliza always does my pavilion at the Christmas Expo. And, of course, Christmas Expo is starting next week. And Eliza always makes the pavilion for that. And I was reminding her that for the 2011 pavilion, she made this fantastic sort of Russian Dhaka style building, and it was gorgeous and beautiful, and yet there were sort of giant elephants on the roof of it. And I did say to her at the time, you know, why are there, I think it's lovely, why are there elephants on my roof? She said, well, you've got to have elephants. And, you know, she was right. You did have to have elephants. So, yeah, wonderful. I think there'll be elephants this year.
Okay, well, in related stuff here as well, just one more item because it tinges on the greater metaverse. Inworlds, which spelled with a Z, is another open sim-based grid, although it's actually a sort of walled garden-like Second Life. It's not on the hypergrid. Courtesy of Daniel Voyager's blog here, they are having their 4th annual holiday gala in aid of Toys for Tots. Now, you can't get to this in Second Life, although I believe there is, if it hasn't finished, a similar event going on in Second Life. But if you're a resident of Inworld, you can go along to this. If you check out danielvoyager.wordpress.com and look for the post saying Inworld's 4th annual holiday gala, etc., you can find various links and details there. It's a 17-day long event, and the proceeds will all benefit the Toys for Tots Foundation. So you've got plenty of time to check that out. It finishes on December 23rd, which is, of course, a couple of days before the Yuletide celebrations or Christmas or whatever you particularly call it. Okay, sounds good. Now, the other thing... relating to OpenSim, and this was curious, actually. I'm sure Maria will agree with me on this. Avi Worlds is an OpenSim grid, and I think it was about 10 days ago they announced that they were leaving the hypergrid, and then 2 days later, there was such an uproar, they announced they were rejoining it. However, what is interesting is this week is they're clearly anxious to get new people in, and they're offering free land parcels to people who want to sign up and be part of the community, as it were. It's about 1,000 prims, slightly less, and 4,096 square meters you get given, and all this is free. Nice one, Maria, isn't it?
Well,
actually, oh dear. I got the actually, and then your line went dead. Oh dear. Right. I'm just looking at Skype. It seems Maria is reconnecting. And Pet Love's trying to call her back. Okay. Well, let's hope that goes okay. We'll come back to that anyway. That is Abbey Worlds, and they are hypergrid enabled again. So if you're interested in that, you better get a little bit of free space there. Well, quite a bit of free space maybe, and still be able to connect to all the other grids that are on the hypergrid. Hope we do get Maria back, because she's just completed an OpenSim survey, which I'm hoping to get the sort of inside results on all that. I think
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yay! Oh, welcome back. Good timing. I was just rounding up there.
Yeah,
So,
I was just saying, actually.
I think that word actually is killing her mic every time.
Yeah.
She says actually and falls completely silent.
Microsoft have apparently banned the word actually. Silence. Okay. I'll tell you what we'll do while we're sort of getting Maria stabilised. I hope. I'll move back to yourself here, because I know you're not going to be lingering around for that long, and of course the big event will be at 2 p.m. when we are going to be simulcasting with various other parties the premiere of season 2 of the Black and Mirror.
Yes.
All brought up a notch from the previous series, and you've been tied up on that for I don't know how long. I mean, I imagine it must be a bit of a relief to actually have the whole second series to bed now.
It's not to bed, as Pet will assure you as well. Principal photography is over. Pre-production was considerably extended this year. And shooting went very well. Principal photography has gone very well, very smoothly. And we're now fully into the post-production phase. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 are going out before Christmas. We're then going to take a break, and episodes 4, 5, and 6 will come out just after Christmas. So they'll be coming out every week. there'll be a gap, and then they'll come out in January.
Right. So it's all well. I won't say it's all changed. I imagine we're going to get more of what we already know and like.
Yes.
I do know that you've had production facilities on the new series that will be greatly enhancing this compared with the first series, for example.
Yes, definitely. Particularly this thing called Rescene, which is just wonderful. Rescene allows you to do various things, not all of which we fully exploited yet. We may, for season 3, exploit some of the other things that it can do. For season 2, what we've really focused on is avatar movement and getting that right. Anyone who's tried to film anything or even act anything, or sometimes even role play anything in Second Life, will be very much aware that it's very difficult to move reliably from A to B, to walk across a room and end up standing next to the person you want to stand next to, without either ending up 10 feet away or getting so close that you knock them flying and end up apologizing madly. As for holding a conversation with them or smiling at them at the same time, forget it. It's these little things. And this was what bugged us on Series 1. We filmed some quite complicated things, like the scene in Seraph City when they returned to Seraph City from the cauldron and they came through the mirror.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And they all shot out through a mirror, fell to the ground, and then stood up. And we actually filmed that in about an hour. We filmed it several times to get different angles. That was all great.
Thought you were going to say a day, but never mind.
I wouldn't let her get away with an hour on that one. I'm sorry.
But they then had to walk down the street. Quinn strode off in a temper. Alice and Biggins followed. Edward trailed after them. They were arguing as they went, and something that Alice said made Quinn stop, turn, and glare at her. She came to a full stop behind him. So did Biggins, and Edward drifted up to join them. We took about 2 weekends shooting 8 hours a day to get that scene in the can. It was
only 3. That's an exaggeration.
But it was really difficult to do. And you would think that, the stunt of getting people flying through mirrors would be more tricky than getting a group of people to walk down a street.
You would, wouldn't you? Yes.
Xander built that, didn't he? Didn't Xander build that whole thing? That was before we had, Rescene and scripters.
We didn't build anything for that. Oh, you mean the
system to pop the people out through the mirror and Seraph City.
Yes, Sandra came up with that.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And Tara did the effects on
the sparkles.
So we got the bubbles. And...
I should point out to the viewers at home that the mystery voice that entered this conversation is better. I can't what to do.
I'm your producer. I'm your off-camera producer.
Exactly. She's not actually sitting on the seats today, but she is here, as you can probably tell. And Pet Love, of course, was for the principal camera, really the chief camera person behind Black Mirror.
No, there's no chief. It was a team effort.
Okay, well, in the credits are at the end, you are.
My name's on there, yeah.
Your name's on there. On its own, the cinematographer.
She's also the chief editor, and I'm her assistant on that. And
no, I don't think so, Saf. I have to say we are co-editors. No. And you're the director too. You have the advantage of being able to edit, direct and then edit. That's a wonderful advantage when you have a plan.
Saffia says where you use the scissors, Pet Love does the scissors. This is what it amounts to.
That's right.
I can do. We have great fun co-editing over Skype because we share screens on Skype and edit. And periodically I forget and I'll be going, so cut there. And Pet will say, where? And I'll be pointing at my camera, my computer screen, going, there, no, there. And then I sort of realise that she can't actually see my finger pointing.
And don't forget the times when I did cut right where you were pointing.
Yeah, which is just so spooky.
It was very funny, yeah.
I actually have a copy of this scene, and I've rested on my island, and well, my beach, and it's not an island, mine. But you know, I start fiddling, and then something comes up, and I've never really got anywhere. But I can see its potential, you know, for laying out paths for the actors to walk, and sequences of animations that play in sequence as they're walking, and all sorts of automated features is perfect for machinima. Though I imagine the learning curve for actually getting to grips with the recent software, as it were, is probably not the easiest. You've got to know what you're doing, from what I can tell.
It's fairly steep, but gosh, it's worth it. And we had Tara Volatant, who does our special effects, took on that role, and he was just absolutely brilliant. Lots of scenes that you'll see in tonight's episode were just made 100 times easier by him. People running around, people dragging other people, all sorts of animation.
And there was, without giving anything away about what they're seeing at 2 o'clock, I was also very impressed by the use of lighting, the way characters were casting giant shadows on walls.
That was it.
And there was an aerial shot where 2 lighting sources were coming in at once, which was odd at first, but then you realised...
We call them, those are the PJ shots.
Yes, when it really shows them off. Tara designed the lighting as well. But PJ has a wonderful, PJ Trenton, who's the other camera person, does some amazing things with overhead shots.
He was such a brilliant camera person, for real.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, while we're on this topic particularly, that was very exciting about this as a machinima project, in the first series anyway, was the little hunts and the prizes and the stuff you could move onto the web and into other places to do that sort of supported. Although it was a 6-series machinima in Second Life, there were all sorts of these offshoot things going on. Yeah, and you know, you could collect prizes, and you know, you could go to the web and you could look up people's diaries and get clues and stuff like that. Now, is there going to be any extensive stuff like that going on with the new series?
Not this season.
It almost killed Saffia last time. We don't want that to happen.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Last season, I was director, producer, exec producer, in fact, the only producer, publicist, games master, editor, assistant editor last season, really. And it really nearly killed me. It was quite awful. Yeah. This season, I've stayed very much as director, producer, assistant editor. I now have...
But you have more help. You do have more help.
I now have an assistant director, Anna Macmillan, who's handling things like all the extras, and there are a lot of extras in some scenes. And she's just been wonderful in rounding people up and putting them down and telling them where to move. So we've got some wonderful sequences with extras in various episodes. And she's also organised people who have like bit parts, small bit parts. We've also got a fantastic unit producer in Taralyn Gravois, who has been very good at keeping things organised and disciplined on set. And I've got some great people who are working with me on publicity, so that's really exciting, and it's taken an awful lot of the work off my shoulders.
Yeah, we had Anna pops in here quite regularly. She was here a couple of weeks ago, and it was very obvious her involvement in Black and Mirror. You know, was foremost in her mind at the time. So she gave us a few little hints and things, and yeah, very exciting. Do you? I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. But do you film all of this in Second Life, or do you use open simulators and anywhere else to do filming?
We just film in Second Life.
Right. So
well, when I say we film in Second Life, I've got to say that that's where the visuals are all done. But of course, the sound is all recorded on Skype. And it's not recorded synchronously. We have special ADR sessions. And that has given us the possibility of using some very experienced voice actors. Xander Green, Scott Simpson, who plays Harlan Quinn, is of course a professional actor, and he asked various friends of his if they would like to join in and help out, and they've been fantastic. They all leapt at the opportunity. They thought it was really fun to do something like this.
I did read a couple of blogs in the week, which were just brief bio summaries of a couple of the other voice actors. And of course, these are people who are pretty experienced in mainstream television. But you would know their faces if they weren't avatars in the machinima.
Yes, the best known is probably Peter Jurassic, who was Lond Malari in Babylon 5 and Sid the Snitch in Hill Street Blues, who's a great character actor, and he's got a lovely part. We've also got Ava Jean Westland, who's Camilla Wright in real life, and she's a fantastic actress, and she's doing terribly well in real life. So, she'd have to say, oh, well, I can't film that day. I'm doing Orange is the Only Black. And it'd be like, okay, right.
Yeah.
We'll reorganize our schedule. Yes.
Yes. I think we know which gets priority. Yes.
Yeah. She's been absolutely brilliant because she's a very good puppeteer, which is how we describe the actors that you see visually, as opposed to the actors that you just hear. And Ava Jean is a brilliant puppeteer, and what she's done is she has actually taken on the roles of the actors who are just voice actors. So Peter Jurassic has voiced his character brilliantly, but the actual avatar you see on the screen is being played by Camilla, Ava Jean. And so she is actually in every episode, although you only see her as her character later in the series in 2 episodes, but she actually puppeteered for various actors. So she was on the set a lot.
Oh, this is great. Yes. As usual, we can't wait to see the I just want to see all the episodes at once, and no doubt episode 6 will have a cliffhanger anyway. After last time. You can possibly comment. I know.
I am not allowed to say. David Abbott, a wonderful, wonderful writer, would have my guts for garters.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well. Let me see how we're doing with Maria. I did sort of see a bit in the back chat here that maybe we're trying to get Maria on the landline. Are you there, Maria?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh my God!
Just do not under any circumstances use the word actually.
Okay, I will not use that word.
That word seems to render you silent. I don't know why.
Yes, I guess Microsoft does not like that word. It thinks maybe I'm going to say something about Apple.
Oh, yes. Anything other?
So when I said that word, what I was trying to say is that many OpenSim grids, especially commercial grids starting out, offer free land and free stores to attract new residents and new vendors. So I've written about this before, and if you look at the grid list, if you look at some of the smaller commercial grids, you can often contact them or log in and show up and say, hey, I'm looking for a new resident homestead lot, and they'll point you the way in the welcome area. So this is very common. Usually you get a small plot with a limited perm allowance. Sometimes it's unlimited time. Sometimes it's just for the first 3 months. And then another deal is Kitely offers a whole region with 100,000 prims for free forever. But the catch is, you can only visit it for 6 hours the first month and 2 hours every month after that, unless you pay for the extra minutes or convert to a premium, fully hosted plan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an alternative model, but it's actually quite a good one because, it allows people to be fully subscribed on a limited basis. If they're only going to use it for one day a month, then they're able to do it, aren't they?
Which is a good segue to the survey where Kitely came out on top.
Well, I was just going to say, I've got your link here, which of course is www.hypergridbusiness, or one word.com, and then /2013/11/4th annual OpenSim grid survey, and all those words are separated by a dash, so it's 4th annual OpenSim grid survey. And this is what I'm keen to hear about, because you're fully on top of everything going on in Metaverse, I think, OpenSim wise, and especially hypergrid wise, of course. So what's the highlights of the results we've had?
The highlights, so the big surprising thing is Kitely came out on top overall. People are really happy with their technology, with their support. Their community is growing. Now, this is also surprising. They ranked high for community. Kitely is not known as a community grid. I don't know Kitely as a community grid because the owners aren't really pushing it as a community. They're pushing it kind of as, here's the technology, here's the infrastructure, do with it whatever you want. So the residents have been organizing themselves into a mentors group. The residents created the welcome areas. Kitely didn't even have its own welcome area. The residents got together and built it. The residents are setting up freebie shops. For example, I help out here. I have a freebie shop, Linda Kelly's items set up as a mall. So Kitely's been growing on the community side. There's forums, there's Facebook groups, a lot of stuff happening, and of course they've got that marketplace. That's a big, huge deal that launched in September, and it's now the best marketplace in OpenSim. And this month they're going to extend this marketplace to other grids, which is amazing and fantastic, because schools, companies, and everyone else who wants legal content can now buy that content, even if their own grid is small and doesn't have a marketplace.
How do they pay these by PayPal and then access them as they travel across the hypergrid, or is it a special, like Linden's sort of service?
Apparently, the way it's going to go is you go to the marketplace, which is the online website. You buy your product with Kitely credits or with PayPal, and it gets delivered to your avatar on the other grids via either hypergrid delivery, or if your grid is not on a hypergrid, they connect your grid up on the back end some other way.
Right. Okay.
So the grid owners have to opt into it. If a grid's a closed grid, they have to decide, do they want marketplace sales or not?
Yeah. So now, would this? I've always been intrigued by this, because I was reading, about the Kitely marketplace, and to all intents and purposes, it sounded like it could be a competitor to the Second Life marketplace. But then again, presumably it would require Linden's to allow content to come in via that route. And
yes, unless the Lindens suddenly turn on hypergrid connectivity, or suddenly open up their product delivery to the Kitely marketplace, I'm not going to count on that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't either, but I had to raise it as an option. It's
but what you can do, this is also very unique to Kitely Marketplace, is merchants have the option of setting transfer, copy, those kind of permissions, but they also have an export permission. And if the item has an export permission, you can download it out of Kitely and then take it with you anywhere you want to go.
So technically, you could probably upload it personally to Second Life.
You can upload it to any grid. You can upload it to Second Life. You can upload it to anywhere else. But it is a bit of a
a lava, as we say. Yeah,
it's a pain. Yeah, it's easier to find an item on Second Life Marketplace instead. Right now, from what I'm seeing right now, merchants are using OpenSim grids as feelers. They're just getting their toes in. Their main market is in Second Life because that's where the customers are, and they're kind of trying out the new grids, getting their feelers, seeing what's happening, getting themselves positioned so that if those grids do take off, they've kind of got the market sewn up.
Oh, you were mentioning. Sorry, carry on, Tara.
Yeah, no, I was going. Your comment, Maria, about Kitely coming in high on community, and then you're noting the things that residents had done the startup on. In other words, the new users and support and some of that. And I'm wondering if the very fact that came from the user community directly is a factor in getting the community itself connected.
Well, I do know from organizing other types of nonprofits that the more involved somebody is involved with the running of things, the more favorable they are towards the group. If they just show up to take stuff as a recipient of stuff, they are much less involved than if they're actually doing stuff and giving back. Yeah, so by having residents more engaged, it does make people feel better about the platform. I don't think that was deliberate. I don't know what their plan was on this score, but it's working out.
I mean, that's so, to me, that's really obvious, because when we have debates about Second Life and all the things, whether it's TOS changes and everything else, at the end of the day, we all come down to the fact that Second Life is a community. That's what it is. Creative, consumer, all mixed up. But I mean, and a lot of potential to do different things. But it is a community. It's an advanced communication platform that uses avatars, and you have a sense of presence and things that you don't have with any other system. But it is a community, and of course, in Second Life's case, it's the community that has built the world. So I would think anybody moving into this area would be very ill-advised to miss the fact that it will be the community that keeps you alive, so to speak, that decides whether you're going to survive or not.
And another grid that came out well was AV Worlds, but that is with an asterisk, because only a few people voted for AV Worlds. I have a cutout of 10 people with less than 10 votes. I didn't write about them. And so they were really down there near the cutoff line versus, Kitely, Inworlds, OS Grid. They had a lot of respondents. We had over 600 responses total. Over 100 of them were from Inworlds, for example. So every Worlds had a very small base of people. But they did well. They did well in spite of the troubles. I keep calling them a troubled grid. They get upset at me every time I say this. But they have a bit of a PR issue because they're opening, they're closing, they're reopening, they're reclosing, they're switching hosting providers, they're off the hypergrid, they're on the hypergrid. So, but it's a new grid. They're finding their way. They're figuring out who they are. So give them a break, I think.
It's what we call teething pains, isn't it?
Yes. And I certainly do not want to discourage any grid from talking about this stuff. I mean, yes, it draws attention to your problems, but it also draws attention to you. There are 300 grids out there. It is really hard for small grids right now to get attention. I have emails coming in from grids asking me to do stories on them. And it's like, well, what's so special about you? And they're like, oh, we have people love us. I'm like, yeah, all 2 people who are on your grid love you. But that's true for every grid. Their residents love them. Well, what's special about you? It deserves a story. And often a lot of grids, they're starting out, they're just a clone of Inworlds, or they're just another small grid, and there's nothing really that sets them apart, and it's really difficult. So at least with every Worlds, they're getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, no publicity is bad publicity, as they say.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, you have your other site or sub-site or whatever I want to call it, Hyperia.com.
Yep.
Where you actually, I guess you do your best to list all the individual grids on the Hypergrid.
No.
No. Oh, right.
Oh,
But I
my
mean, that,
God.
whenever
I wish.
whenever I open that, it's useful because it gives me a flavor of the destinations that I can hop to on the hypergrid, and it gives me a flavor of what I might want. For example, if I want to go shopping, I think, oh, that sounds like a good grid to go around snooping. And
Right.
if I'm interested in best practices, there'll be another grid that, for example, it is a specialty group. It might just be a group of people collaborating on a specific project, and they don't, they want to be on the hypergrid so people can come in, but they don't have this overarching quest to be another Second Life. They're just there to do their thing. So that, I think, is the beauty of it. That hypergrid directory will, tell me sort of all this information.
So right now it's just a list of places I recommend. So it's a few hundred places, and there's thousands of destinations right now on the hypergrid. OS Grid alone has 10,000 hypergrid enabled regions. So there's a lot of places to go. Most of it aren't worth visiting. So I just focus on the stuff that's worth visiting. But if anybody wants to help out with this, please get in touch with me. I would love help because it's growing so fast. There's no way I can keep up. I mean, my minimum goal is to have at least one destination on every grid out there. And I'm not, and I've got a long backlog of welcome areas and event areas that I'm still trying to work through.
Yeah, I must say, if you can only have a welcome area on each grid, as it were, then you've already got the top level structure, haven't you? That people can go to the grid.
Exactly. Yeah. At least, and grid welcome areas are starting to become more useful with landmarks to other places on the grid, with events, with little freebie shops, with stuff that really gives you a flavor of the grid, and as that's happening, those areas are turning into worthwhile destinations because they're good hubs to start with.
Now, we were talking earlier about starter parcels. I've got a little parcel on OS Grid, in fact, which is an alternative studio to this. It's about the same size as this. So the idea, I only actually opted for it just prior to the community conference because I thought, well, we'll drag people over there and do little interviews and things like that. Of course, we don't have all. We were talking about merchandise earlier, and of course, the open sim marketplaces don't have all the advanced HUDs and things we use for filming, which doesn't help. Right. But effectively, I didn't get to use that much. I log in probably once a week or something, but I have to admit various things that kept me busy elsewhere recently. And one of the things that came up, which I haven't fully explored yet, which I imagine you know about, is there is actually a new method or new devices for hypergridding now, isn't there? There's one you can get which you actually get and then you res it and you set up something I presume is akin to the hypergates. Do you know what I'm referring to?
If you go to Hyperica, I have 3 regions set up because of hypergrid issues, but I give away a whole bunch of hypergates. So normally the way you travel from one grid to another is you open up map and you type in that long hypergrid address and you hit teleport and you go there. But another thing you can do is you can put up a gate, which looks like a Stargate, or it looks like a puddle of water, or it looks like a mirror, or you can make it look like anything you want, and you walk through it, and it automatically teleports you to the place you want to go. Yeah. So, and those are called Blam gates after Pathfinder from Linden Lab, now in Reaction Grid, and he set them up. And so you as soon as you touch the grid, it automatically triggers a teleport and you're off to another grid, which is very handy if you travel to one direction. If you will travel to one particular destination a lot, you can put up a Blam gate to that destination, or you can put up several Blam gates and make like a little blog roll, except it's a grid roll.
Yeah.
of the places that you recommend, and those are great. And there's a few other systems where it's a dialable gate, where you click on the gate and it gives you a menu of destinations. The problem with those systems is, like I said, there's over 10,000 regions right now on the hypergrid. Imagine trying to use a dial gate to navigate through that. Oh my God. So the dial-up gates typically have, a few dozen destinations, and that's it.
It was well over a year ago now. Tara and I had 4 sims on Reaction Grid, and and there was Fleet 2 had Chilbo there as well, and I remember actually building like an airport, but it was just full of gates.
Right.
And obviously they all had individual destinations, so you had to walk along the wall to find the gate to the place you wanted to go. And of course these were just selections that linked to us, what we were doing.
And it was and also that was in the very early days of hypergridding as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
since it's been a year, and I think it's been something like a year and a half or so since Reaction Grid closed down their OpenSim.
Yes.
Yeah, I still have on OS Grid on the Metaverse World broadcasting wall, while the Stargate type ones, which if I think it gives me a menu. It's a limited menu.
Yes.
But I think I've got the links to the what they're called. When you got to do a double jump, you need to go to.
You don't have to do. You don't have to do.
You don't
They fixed
anymore.
it. They fixed it.
I know.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think I can probably de-res that. Come think of it now, because we don't need.
And it turned out to be this fix that was intractable and impossible turned out to be a one-line fix.
This is what they call code, isn't it? I can believe that. It was just
so now.
One thing everybody.
Now, if you don't know about this, it used to be that you could only travel 4,000 regions in any direction, and if you're going farther than that, you had to jump in several hops, like taking an airplane, to another continent. You had to stop at a hub first. They fixed it. You can now jump anywhere you want without worrying about how far away it is. You don't have to know the coordinates of any region. All you have to have is an updated viewer. Firestorm supports it, the latest version, and so does Singularity.
Right. Yeah, I'm using Singularity for the most part now, so it's excellent.
So just make sure you have the latest version of it, and you can go anywhere you want. As long now you have the upgraded viewer, but the region you're on also has to be running updated OpenSim, because it's a 2-part fix. So if you teleport into an old grid running an old version of OpenSim, you might have to make a couple of jumps coming back. So, or you could just turn off the viewer and turn it back on again and log back into your home grid.
Yeah.
But as all grids update, that will stop being a problem for anybody.
Now, tell me, I'm probably onto a wild goose chase here. It's probably wishful thinking as usual. Is any progress being made, as far as you can see, on the idea of getting the closed grids, not Second Life, we know what they're like, but people, I know, I don't know about Inworlds, but I know Avination, for example, wants to be on the hypergrid, but isn't yet until some of the security is fixed and stuff like that. Is there any progress being made on the idea of having kind of visitor permissions via the hypergrid? I did hear some talk that, the idea you wouldn't be able to bring anything other than what you're wearing. You wouldn't be able to bring inventory and stuff, but you could visit.
What they did this summer, Avination and Singularity created an export permission. And I mentioned export permissions on Kitely. So this is something very similar, and it's built into the hypergrid, so that if all items will now have 4 permissions instead of 3, as long as you have an updated viewer, and only items that have the export permission enabled can leave the grid. So, for example, you might teleport into the Avination welcome area, pick up a few freebies, like an Avanation promotional T-shirt. I went to Avanation and all I got was the stupid hat, that kind of thing. But everything else is only for local residents. So Avanation has developed this. They're still in the process of debugging it, securing it, make sure like all the odds, T's are crossed and I's are dotted, because merchants are very wary about this. And then once that's done, Avanation plans to turn on Hypergrid for itself, and then I'm sure other grids will be watching it to see how well that works. And then once they've got the bugs ironed out and everything, other grids are going to be signing on. Kitely is also, they've already enabled exports, as I mentioned, so they're going to be turning on Hypergrid soon as well. They're planning to do it by the end of the year. I might say, this month, maybe in January or February, they'll be on the Hypergrid. And then after that, at that point, the only reason for a grid to be closed is if they really want to preserve their local content to just local users. Like a school grid, for example, might not want foreigners teleporting in. Or a role-playing grid might want only local residents as part of the role play. Or an alternative lifestyle grid might want people to commit to that grid before they're allowed in, for security, for privacy reasons. Inworld is going to have a problem because they're running a branched version of OpenSim. So they'll have a much harder time getting on the Hypergrid. It'll take them the longest. But they're in a similar boat as Second Life. They have so many users and so much traffic that they're not going to gain anything really by opening up to the Hypergrid until the Hypergrid grows quite a bit more than it is now.
It's the same as the merchants thing, isn't it? The bigger the Hypergrid gets, the more people are going to think, hang on, I really ought to have an outpost to sell my gear on, the Hypergrid.
Exactly.
Exponential. Is that the word? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen. Everything moves slower than you expect it to, and then you turn around and you go, oh my God, all this stuff happened. When did that happen?
Well, coming back to the survey, I see on one summary I've got here, it's actually not yours. It was another blog at SL Governor Marley actually picking out the faults of not your survey so much as how the survey reveals the flaws with surveys, which is a polite way of saying it's actually not about your survey at all. It's just an example. But there's mention of another grid, which I don't actually know. Zandramas came third. Is that right?
They're another small startup grid. Again, a handful of users voted on it. I don't know much about this grid. Like I said, there's 300 grids out there. They're one of the small commercial startups. So the survey was good for them because it brought attention to their grid. In fact, in the last 2 years, this happened every year. We had Island Oasis one year, and then Lost Horizon the other year. Totally unknown grids before. People had to write in their names because I didn't even know about them. And they ranked really well. And as a result of it, shortly afterwards, Island Oasis became a top 10 grid by traffic because people found out about it. Lost Horizon wasn't able to do the same. They had, not every grid can scale up and can handle. And it's very easy to do great support when you only have a quick handful of users. It gets a lot harder to deliver good support and good technology when you have a lot of users. So we'll see what happens with Avanation and Zandramas, and Dream Nation is the other small one that's just starting up, that's doing well. So we'll see. Avanation did really badly in this survey, which really surprised me. Almost nobody called it their primary grid, even though a lot of people said they visited it. So it looks like people are visiting grids, but are kind of focusing in on their primary grid. And that's becoming, because it's a winner take all kind of system, like social networks like Facebook. You want to go where the people are. So people are gravitating towards the grids where everybody is. And right now, that's Inworld's obviously in first place. It's OS Grid, Kitely, Metropolis. And some of the other grids like Avanation are really suffering as a result. And turning on Hypergrid might be their one big hope.
It's fascinating, really. I mean, of course, we're back to the division of functional grids versus the ones that are, shall we say, just pursuing the mass market, the alternatives to Second Life. So I imagine these grids are talking about, these results are almost indicating success amongst the grids that are trying to attract the greater populace. In other words, they're not specializing. I was actually quite interested in this, the article I just mentioned. I mean, she lists the percentage of respondents visiting each grid. And as you said, you've got OS Grid, first, Inworld. Third was Avanation. Fourth was, people from there. And fifth was Metropolis. But she also notes, however, and I think this is interesting, that's in line with the ranking she'd expect to see. But she says she was surprised to read that 26% of all respondents had actually visited personal grids. So over a quarter of the people responding were actually presumably not responding, from a grid where they're a resident. They actually have their own grids.
No. What was interesting there is that a quarter people had their own personal grid, but they didn't consider that grid to be their primary grid.
Oh, okay.
So very few of them considered it to be a primary grid, but a lot of people had. So it looks like they're using their little personal grids as staging areas, or building areas, or warehouses, or just play space, but really do their virtual world, like living, on a big social grid with a lot of stuff on it.
I mean, my plan, and of course he hasn't done it because it's got stuff running all the while. I've got to get another box sorted out, an old box basically. But the idea is, I would have a virtual world on my desktop, so that will be like my own OpenSim installation or something similar. But maybe I'd have 16 parcels there. I don't know, different rooms or something. And I would probably have one of those sims on a hypergrid, and that would be my jumping point into the greater world. So I got to admit, psychologically, I mean, I would think of it as my home grid because it's on my own computer, but it wouldn't necessarily be hypergrid enabled. The part of it would be because I'd use it, I'd have, I don't know, 15 rooms, and the 16th sim would be a door into the outdoors. And the moment I step on it, I'm on the hypergrid kind of thing. All the metaphors of that kind of thing appeal to me, I've got to admit, although they're somewhat old-fashioned. But, I would consider something that's permanently online on the hypergrid to be, a home grid, I think, rather than something that is maybe only up when I'm up and stuff like that. It's very easy to see how you describe your home grid as something that's always there, live.
And where your friends are, because if all your friends are somewhere, that's where you're going to go, and you're going to go to a private grid to build or to do some work. But you're going to be out there with your friends as you're socializing and you're interacting.
Well, I must admit, we, as I say, we used to use Reaction Grid way back when, but that my parcel now is on OS Grid, and quite frankly, whenever I'm talking to people, even like Pet Love, our camera woman here, and people I work with, on broadcasting and other things, I invite them over to bookmark my place, in OS Grid. So, we don't meet up there or anything very often, but it's a convenient landing point if we do need to, or if we need to call each other together and, people on the, on the hypergrid at a given time, I can call them over and in, which is, because this is the other bit advanced now, is the way groups are beginning to operate on OpenSim.
Oh, I love that.
They're operating hypergrid wide, so I can message people in my group across multiple grids and say hop over here for a meeting or whatever.
And that's how I do it on Hyperica. I have some freebie shops set up, and I have a group for the merchants so they can build on there. And all of them have accounts on other grids. None of them are local. I'm the only one who has an account on my own grid. Everyone else is a visitor. And they have building rights, and they can do stuff. And they're not even local residents. And I can send them messages and announcements and all this stuff. And I love it. The technology is getting really, really good. But once it's going to be very disruptive thing once Kitely gets on the hypergrid. I think it's going to be, it's because of the pricing model. You can have, instead of having a little home parcel, tiny little thing, you can have a full region that's just up there waiting for you whenever you want it. And the amount you pay for it is so ridiculously low that why not? And grids are really going to have to rethink, is the land-based business model the way to go?
Now, doesn't Kitely's economic model is based really on airtime, as it were, the amount of time you're in there, and basically that controls how they fire up their servers and keep stuff online, isn't it?
They've got two basic pricing models. There's the always on traditional, you pay $40 a month and you get a full region, and there's the metered one where you only pay for the time you're using. And you can switch the same region from one plan to the other if you want, anytime you want to save yourself money. So if you're getting a lot of traffic on a region, you have it up all the time. If you're only using it once a month for a big event, just pay for those few hours. So,
the reason I thought of this is because if they are fully hypergrid enabled, you will get these situations where you might want to get to a grid on the hypergrid that's hosted by Kitely and suddenly find it's offline because it's on a payment system.
It boots right back up.
It would. Right.
Yeah. So all their grids are on all their regions, no matter what pricing plan you're using, they're all on-demand regions. So whenever they're empty, I mean, it waits a few minutes to make sure everyone's gone, and then it puts the region into storage on the Amazon cloud. And then when someone teleports it in, it loads up the region again. Now, if sometimes it can take a little bit for a region to load, so you actually land in a temporary waiting area while the region's loading up fully.
Yeah.
But because they're running on the Amazon cloud and they can scale it up really quickly, they're getting the loading times lower and lower and lower, so that it's closely soon becomes indistinguishable from the actual teleport times.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
And if I teleport into one of these grids and I wait a few seconds for it to load, does that grid owner incur extra charges by my activating it, so to speak?
Depends on their pricing. If they're paying for time that it's active, then they'll have to pay extra. Unless they charge you for your visit, which case you pay for it, or if it's an unlimited use plan, then there's no additional charge to them.
Yeah,
but say for example, if you're a popular destination that everybody visits, like a famous museum or a movie theater or something, you can charge people. You can let the people pay for their own time who visit, who teleport in, and then it's not going to cost you anything at all to have it up.
Right.
It's going to have to be a worthwhile destination for people to be willing to pay to visit it.
Yeah.
But if it's a hot club, for example, it's, you've got your covered charge handled right then and there.
Yeah, actually a good way to do it is in many ways. The entrance fee is paid at the arrival on the grid. Yep. So, yeah.
And in fact, you can charge people extra to visit it, and Kitely will refund you everything over and above the hosting fee.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good way to make money out of venues. Yeah, it sounds very workable. Just on offshoot here, it's unbelievable. It is the 1st of December, and I've just had at least, including one from Avast, the security firm, I've had 3 pop-ups here advertising Black Friday sales. Apart from the fact I'm in the UK, where this is still pretty meaningless. I think it's 2 days old. Not the post. It says 2nd of December. They're mining it for all they're worth. From what I gather, it's more of a battlefield than a shopping experience. But there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to keep an eye on the time now. We've got about just under 15 minutes to go before I have to refire the channel for the Black & Mirror premiere.
Now, do you mind?
Sorry?
Do you mind if I hop off early and say one more thing before I go?
Okay, yeah, I was about to say that, and I was also going to Tara to raise her points of the week, and I was hoping you'd linger to comment on what.
Oh well, no, Maria did say earlier that she did need to leave.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so
about now. So
yeah,
so last.
Let's go with it. Okay, Maria.
Okay, so holiday events all around the grids. I'm running a story up on it either tonight or tomorrow on Hypergrid Business. It's going to be a lead story. All the happenings. Everyone's having parties. Everyone's having events. Lots of themed regions up. So definitely lots of places to go this coming month on the Hypergrid and on the closed commercial grids in OpenSim.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if there's any ideal time of the year to explore, it's this. I mean, I know there's a lot of distractions in Second Life too, for those of you here, but I mean, it is also very good. I remember holding Christmas parties on Reaction Grid and stuff, and it was all fun. We had the sim owners coming in and all getting involved, and it was just one great big party time. So, for sure. So. I guess we've covered everything from the survey that's important there, have we? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
People.
Let her go. Let her go. She's anxious, I think, to whatever her next appointment is calling. So thank you, Maria.
Yes. And if people want to read more, I've posted the link in local chat, and it's on the hypergridbusiness.com. It's still up on the front page.
Okay.
All right.
That's great. Hypergridbusiness.com. And thank you very much, Maria. We'll see you again
soon. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And have a happy holiday season if I don't talk to you before then.
Okay, and you too. Great to see you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Bye. Okay, folks. Well, I think with this, I can turn to Tara finally. And I know we had a few connection issues earlier today, which has severely hindered the news gathering operation. But I think Tara has probably got a few words for us. Over to you, Tara.
Oh yes, I had a power outage and an internet issue combined with this during my morning hours when I'm normally kind of out gathering news items and. It took a rather serious chunk out of my normal news gathering time. So, and of course, adding to that is the fact that in the U.S., this is a classically slow news week because of the Thanksgiving holiday, which for anyone who's not in retail, that means Thursday and Friday. So it's a very short work week for lots of folks. And of course, and then if you're in retail, then you have Black Friday in the U.S., which is the day after Thanksgiving and the official U.S. launch of the shopping silliness for the season. And I understand from Mal and some advertising he's seen on in the UK that there are efforts being made by some merchants to export the concept of Black Friday outside the U.S., even though the day on the calendar is only meaningful if you also have a Thanksgiving the day before. So, anyhow, yes. Well, I actually did turn up a few news items. It is a short list, and let me get my list up here.
I think it needs to be. We've got about 4 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to come back and you started, Mal, talking about the Zapatos Rojos exhibit, red shoes. I won't even. Yes, your Spanish pronunciation is as bad as my French is.
Zapatos. Zapatos.
Zapatos.
Mm-hmm. Zapatos.
Yeah.
Mi zapatos son not spaghetti.
Yeah. Anyhow, this is actually it's an Inworld version of an exhibit created by a Mexican visual artist, Alina Chavet, that her real world exhibit is a display of red shoes and boots of all designs and sizes used to commemorate the high number of women and girls killed in the city of Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. It came about as a result of her becoming increasingly aware of the high number of women and girls who were dying or simply vanishing within the city, a place where violence had at one time escalated to the point where the Mexican military were asked to intervene. And then apparently that move actually made things worse. And she the artist commented in her visits downtown, she was alarmed to see how many posters for missing girls were stuck to telephone poles. And so she decided on shoes as a focus for the display because she'd used them before as a metaphor. But also in researching the disappearances, she discovered that many of those who had vanished either worked in shoe stores, had been buying shoes at the time of their disappearance, or were seeking work in a shoe shop. Isn't that interesting?
Wow, that's really bizarre.
Yeah, that's just, fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyhow, there's a group of Inworld artists who have put together a Red Shoes exhibit that opens tomorrow. It's 25 Second Life artists, and it's the same basic, it's the same concept. Apparently, one of the things that's happened with the real life exhibit is it's grown in its sense of being a piece of what's people attempting to draw attention to the issue of violence against women. So it's very timely with the other activities that are going on in World around that theme. So it starts December 2nd and will run through January 7th. So I think this is a must-see exhibit. It will be in the sim is initials, MIC. So it's at the Imaginarium in MIC.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, just very cool. Let's see, what else do I want to mention here? Those of you who happen to be in the U.S. And are actually making some real money in Second Life as merchants, the odds are very excellent that you may have or will receive notification from Linden Lab that they need some tax information. I haven't had a chance.
The final insult.
Yeah, well,
that's it. That is it for me.
Yeah, but man. It's one of those things. It's as long as Second Life has been in existence, it's actually sort of surprising this hasn't come up already.
So it's better off working for free. Shit.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that if you've got income and it's going in your bank account, you need to report it anyway. But I'm sure there's discussion and people grousing and saying, Linden Lab is the evil empire. Well, unfortunately, it's not Linden Lab that's the evil empire. It's the IRS, which has rules, and corporations are obliged to follow them. So the bottom line on this is quit your grousing and respond appropriately to the form. Don't not respond, because if you don't respond, the tax bite that Linden Lab is required to take by the federal government is bigger than probably what your form would have. So
we're going to pay taxes to Linden Labs, or we're going to pay taxes to the government?
Linden Lab is obliged, if you do not respond with the appropriate paperwork. Mm-hmm. If you received a request for tax information from the lab, it is important that you not ignore it, as you risk 28% of your gross amounts received withheld if you do. And then Linden Lab sends them to the IRS. Linden Lab doesn't hold them. They collect them and send them to the IRS. Yeah. It's all, it's like anything else. So it's one of those things we got to do. I know there's other stuff. Mal's running out of time. Just two events that opened today. The new Famished collection started today, and the arcade, its December Gotcha event opened today. You won't be able to get in for a couple days unless you're very persistent. But there's some great items. I'm looking forward to getting in and doing some gotcha shopping.
It's like a feeding frenzy.
Yes, a feeding frenzy. If you don't have enough real world shopping, so. I had a couple other items too, but I know I'm out of time. So back to you, Mel, and I know we're getting ramped up for.
Black Yes, thanks, Tara. So much for an open-ended show. This is a case of finger on the button. Now, actually, what's actually going to happen is I'm going to fire up the channel again, and you're going to actually see a Pet Love short film of the 48-hour Machinima Awards. I've got this sort of precisely timed. So Black Mirror premiere starts at exactly 2:00 SLT, which is why my finger will hit the button in just a second to get it timed. time properly. So immediately after that little awards thing, you'll be seeing the latest edition, the premiere indeed, albeit simulcast, of the first episode of season 2 of The Black and Mirror. And with that, I'm going to have to hurry and say goodbye. We'll be back at the same time, same place next week. Thanks to all my guests. Thanks to Tara and, of course, Pet Love. And we'll see you soon. Enjoy The Black and Mirror.